All right, everyone, now it's time to talk about political intimidation, specifically Deserae Morin, a House candidate here in the state of Vermont, apparently got a letter in the mail, a threatening letter. I think got the letter some time ago. Now the investigation has sort of begun into it. I'm not sure if there might be two different stories about this, but apparently somebody sent an anonymous letter, and it's like, you know those letters that serial killers sometimes send, where they take like little bits of text out of a magazine or something and sort of paste it in, like like they use school paste to do this, and it said something along the lines of basically, we will kill you for socialism, and it mentioned, you know, other things that they wanted to do to this candidate. And I'm thinking to myself, if this had been a Democrat running in this position, probably be carried by the national news. Instead, I have to read about it on, like, the Daily Wire, I think, covers it. WCAX did a bit piece on it, but I haven't seen anything about it, like, on TV. As far as I know, you know, this time of year, yes, I'll pay attention to some local politics on cable, just because it's faster to do that than to, you know, go to, like, WCAX blocked me on Facebook, so it's a little bit of a problem. Like, literally, I can't shitpost on WCAX's pages. What was happening is I was correcting their stories, and they didn't like that very much. I was basically saying, hey, this story is wrong. You're wrong. This was during the 2016 election. So it's like, you know, WCAX represents like a blue state audience. They're obviously not in favor of Trump. They're like, oh, you bigoted comment here and economic thing here. And I'm like, no, you're wrong. Here's why. Eventually they got tired of me fact-checking them, I think, though. So they kicked me off their page. But yeah, from what I've seen, I haven't really seen any reporting on this. And here you have a situation where someone who's at least self-proclaiming to be like far left is engaging in political intimidation and credible threat of violence. It is a credible threat. If you're sending someone mail and saying, I'm going to kill you, it's pretty straightforward, yeah. Much like with Christine Halquist, you know, Democratic candidate for governor, I'd say, there's a pretty good chance it wasn't a Vermonter that sent the letter. There's a pretty good chance someone from like New York or New Hampshire is responsible. No offense to New Yorkers or people from New Hampshire, but Vermonters typically don't do that. Vermonters are very, very in your face. They did a study, God, I think it was a year ago now, where Vermonters were like the most likely to, we're like the master ship posters of the U.S. We're like the Australia of the United States when it comes to online commentary. Like, we're the most likely to insult and use, like, hate speech and you know, slurs and stuff, which, by the way, I think is a good thing. Because Vermonters are more in your face about these things. And no fucking gutter sniping, no hiding behind your back and saying, oh, you chuckle, doing it like an anonymous coward. No, like literally, fuck you is basically how it works here. That's why our crime rate's lower. People confront one another, they blow off steam, then they go and drink usually. There's nothing else to do in Vermont 5-6 months out of the year. Okay, you can go skiing, be a tourist. Most people skiing on the mountains tend not to be Vermonters. Again, no offense to maybe winter sports enthusiasts. My winter sport is drinking hot tea and sitting there in a robe and shitposting. Apparently other Vermonters share this fact. But this probably is the alt-left doing it. We've seen this before. Antifa shows up. You know, some other group, like, it was funny, the Proud Boys, I guess, got into a little bit of a fight a few days ago, and they get blamed for it even though they were attacked by, like, Antifa members. And this is a common theme. The corporate media doesn't want to talk about how most political violence in this country is being perpetuated by a handful of far leftists. Now, these people, you gotta understand, hate liberals, too. Like if you go to like any of the commie pages on YouTube and you're like, you know, haha, Democrats for the win, they'll be like, oh fuck, liberals get the bullet too mode. A lot of them are actually like it. And then you get that one sane voice that'll say, oh, maybe we shouldn't threaten to kill everybody who's not a communist. And then they quickly get their shit kicked in. That's sort of why these groups don't get off the ground. But I wouldn't be surprised if this was from outside Vermont. As far as I know, there's not really much of an Antifa presence here. There's not even that big a far-left presence in the socialist vein here. Like, Bernie Sanders is a socialist. He's popular and gets reelected, but a lot of people probably don't even know what his fucking proposals are beyond he wants free everything for everyone. Well, you know, you don't have to, you know, that sounds really good to anyone on paper. Oh, you mean free health care? I don't really have to work. I'll just get, you know, free basic income. It's going to be great, but then, of course, you realize that that means that basically you destroy your industry because the only people that are productive will be taxed at 99% and they will quickly leave. And this is, by the way, why socialists want to take over the whole country. They realize they can't really export their model on a state-to-state basis because that state will immediately begin to wither. Look at California, where you're the closest to that. They're hemorrhaging population, despite the fact that the GDP is high, despite the fact that the economy is large there, they're quickly losing some of their best and brightest to places like Texas. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why Vermont, which is far left economically, is losing population. It's like I'm very seriously looking at my own financial situation, saying, do I really need to pay $2,000-3,000 fucking dollars a year to my state in income taxes for pothole-filled roads? My inclination is to say no, I should take that. And you do realize it's a lot of money, right? To the bureaucratic socialists, who usually are very rich, that sounds like small time. But, you know, it is to a person who actually has to be productive for a living and can't live off a trust fund. I know Bernie Sanders has never actually had an actual job, so probably he doesn't understand. But yeah, really funny. So, yeah, Deserae Morin got, her life threatened. It's not a surprise. We're in a period where political intimidation is a bit more common than it used to be. It's not like, some people are taking it to be like, oh, the Civil War is coming. Oh, society's collapsing. The Western world is in flames. No, it's not quite that bad. There have been periods, in relatively recent U.S. history alone that have been more violent. You think of the Summer of Love, which really is closer to the Summer of Hate. You think back to some of the events of the 60s, maybe the early 70s. Certainly the Democratic Convention getting boycotted there by 100,000 hippies that, by the way, would sit there saying Sieg Heil and stuff like that, and in some cases actually had overlapping ideology with fascism, which a lot of people don't understand. They think that they were all like far left. No, not by modern standards. They were more right libertarians than anything else. Like fucking Uncle Sam, fuck off. Yeah, the hippies are basically Ron Paul libertarians more than they were modern liberals, but no, you'll never hear that in a history book. But yeah, we've had periods of greater violence. Or you think of some of these socialist riots and looting and, basically, when the first wave of the alt-left rises up in the Depression era, basically. You have bomb-throwing anarchists in the most literal sense. And you got to realize, like, something like 25-30% of Americans identified as socialist 100 years ago. You do realize that, right? The heyday of socialism was a century ago in this country. It's an afterthought now. Now you're scraping together 15%. You think it's a major problem. It's not a major problem. Be wary of the far left. But it's not quite as bad as things were, back at the worst of times, back during the Depression, or certainly back during the days of the sort of fight against the police state with the Vietnam War. As far as Miss Morin goes, though, probably wasn't a Vermonter. When they investigate, hopefully they find out who did it. It'll be really funny if they're from, like, New York City or something. And they're probably full of shit. The odds that they're actually going to carry out their threat are pretty low, but it is a credible threat. Yeah, they should be thrown in jail for a credible threat of literally murder and rape, which is what it's very funny, they're supposedly a socialist, but they're like, anti-Me Too, I guess, as well. A lot of far-left dudes are actually extremely, extremely sexist. Yeah, you just talk to them sometimes. Trust me, you'll find it out in private conversation. That's about all. Peace out.